What's up YouTube, this is Fate, bringing you another deck profile, and today I'm going to be showing you an updated version of my Red-Eyes deck. Now, the reason why I wanted to revisit this deck a little bit playstyle-wise was mainly because of a certain spell card by the name of Pre-Preparation of Rites. And knowing how much I like Paladin of Dark Dragon as a utility piece in this build, as well as adding the speed and consistency of that ritual monster, I had to throw those brand new cards in, restructure this deck a little bit so it's a little bit more combo heavy to make those Red Eyes plays that much more explosive. And without further ado, let's get to the profile. For this updated Red Eyes profile, I now run triple of the vanilla Red Eyes Black Dragon, as well as Red Eyes Black Flare Dragon. Now, considering that you're able to go into your Red Eyes plays a little bit more consistently with this new version of the build, you definitely had to bulk up on. I definitely had to bulk up on a little more on the normal side of it, and that definitely makes a couple other cards a little bit more consistent in this deck, as well as making rank 7 plays that much more alive in the build. And with them, you also run the triple Blackstone of Legend. Now, there are builds out there that are cutting this down to 2 in place of some other combo cards, but this build, I want to say, is a little bit more brute force and straightforward with its combos. So in order to deliver that added impact with its brute force ability, a third one is definitely necessary for this build. And then for the support Red Eyes monsters, you run 1 Red Eyes Darkspell Dragon, very staple in this build. 2 Red-Eyes Wyverns. For the level 4 part of this build, I ended up cutting my Dark Griffers for this version of the build in order to more focus on the Red Eyes combos. And Red-Eyes Wyverns definitely saves a lot more as far as getting you that end phase summon in case you are unable to perform any kind of summon for the turn to not only facilitate future combo plays, but at the same time defend yourself from game-ending plays that in means of creating something on the field that your opponent would have to fight around in addition to whatever you have on the field. And to round up the Rise support, I run 2 Black Metal Dragons. And I understand why most people love this card. It's 3, being able to direct equip and to search out the other spells and traps for the combos. I've tried to find a slot for a third one in this build. Definitely need at least 2 of these, but one of the reasons why that I don't think I need a third one in this specific build, just because this ritual spell in the graveyard, when you bash it on the next turn, does facilitate that same search of those spells or traps that you need for the later combos. 9 times out of 10 when you're searching for the Rise Darkspell Dragon, because of Dark Paladin Dragon, Darkness Spell is already in circulation on the field or in the graveyard, so having that add search for something that isn't as much relevant, I didn't feel the need for a third one in this build, but considering what combos it can create later, definitely still must at 2. On to the ritual side of things, we still run the triple Manju of 10,000 hands. Kind of have to in rituals. And triple Paladin of Dark Dragon, which this guy's ability just to be able to spit out any Red Eyes monster from your deck by attributing it to aka the Darkness Metal Dragon, and being able to use Darkness Metal Dragon to special summon out the Paladin of Dark Dragon straight from the grave again. Even though you can only use this guy's effect once per turn for both sides, it's just nice to have that set up play and, again, create that extra obstacle that your opponent is forced to play around. And then for the remainder of the support monsters, we run 1 Summon Skull for the fusion cards. Still run that in this build. Archfiend Black Skull Dragon is still a powerhouse for this build. 1 Keeper of the Dragon's Shrine, just because your stuff will still be dying. Like I said, I focused more on the brute force of this build, so your monsters will typically run into destruction cards and among other things on the field. And Keeper of the Dragon Shrine just pops itself to the field as a defensive measure for when you don't want to go out just in a very cheap way. And run tons of darks in this graveyard, or run tons of dark monsters in this deck, and as well as the ability to play tons of graveyard control. Dark Arm Dragon is a must. That's it for the monster count. Onto the spells. We run triple cards of the Redstone. Now playing a grand total of 5 Red-Eyes level 7 monsters, so this card is definitely a lot more useful at 3 in this build in facilitating those draw plays. And then for the other trios, we have the triple Dark Dragon rituals just to keep up the consistency of that combo, and triple Pre-Preparation Rites. And being able to launch that Paladin of Dark Dragon combo turn 1, it's a lot more likely with the Pre-Preparation of Rites on the field. Being able to use this one card to search out both your ritual and your monster. And if you have anything else in your hands to use for the ritual summon, you're almost guaranteed a Rise Dark Smell Dragon on the turn 1 on a very consistent basis. So Pre-Preparation of Rites, definitely very welcomed in the speedy brute force build. And then for the spells, we run double Dragon Shrine. Originally I did not run this card before, but considering how you can use Dragon Shrine to load up some key parts of your graveyard that you want to use later, and just for the turn 1 fact that say you decide to go Dragon Shrine, pitch Rise Black Dragon, and then pitch Black Stone of Legend, use Black Stone's effect, spin this back to the deck, and get a free Black Stone in hand, it might as well also be Rhoda for Black Stone of Legend, so this card is, it's just fun. And then to round out the spells, we run one of the Red-Eyes Fusion. One for one, just because we do still play a fair amount of level 1 monsters in the build, the big one being Black Stone of Legend. And one Soul Charge, because you do tend to get a lot of level 7s in your graveyard, and to be able to Soul Charge and go into multiple Red-Eyes Black Flare Dragons in one turn definitely puts your opponent in the bind, no matter what kind of effects and what kind of deck that they use these days. That's it for the spells. On to the traps. I still prefer the triple Red-Eyes Spirit just because the continuous trap card requires you to have that other Red-Eyes monster on the field, where you could just be a lot more reactive with this card. And the way this build plays around with the Dark Paladin combo, you tend to end up with Dark Smell Dragon in the graveyard first. So just being able to still use Spirit to go into Dark Spell Dragon and then combo off from that point forward. This card is, I don't know, it's back and forth, but it's still very useful for this style of play. And of course, the one Solemn Warning, because it's Solemn Warning. That's it for the main deck. On to the extra deck. We run one copy of the Archfiend Black Skull Dragon because we only have one Summon Skull and one Fusion card. Logic should take over right there. And because of the added rank 7 presence in this build, I decided to up my last count of Flare Dragon from 1 up all the way up to 3 for this build, just because the ability to put out multiples of these in one turn, especially with this new version of the build, it's just hilarious to see your opponent just activate effect with 2 of these on the field and burn themselves for 1,000 each time they try to activate an effect. Granted, there will be those times where they do get past your field, but they are paying a very, very heavy cost to get rid of these guys. And especially if you have a Red-Eyes Fusion looming in the background for Archfiend Black Skull Dragon, you can easily create some game-winning moves against your opponent for them paying the price per se of getting rid of your field. And for the support level rank 7s, you still run one Mech Phantom Beast Dracosack and one number 11 Big Eye. And then for the rank 4s, we run one Queen Dragon Jin and one Gemnite Pearl for the 2 niche choices for this build. Queen Dragon Jin works extremely well with monsters, Gemnite Pearl because surprisingly there are still those rogue decks that run Fiendish Chain, and Gemnite Pearl just does not care about Fiendish Chain. And then for the general rank 4 monsters, we run one Castell, Anarch, Anti-Luminescent Knight, Giant Hand, Daigasso Emerald, Diamond Direwolf, and Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon. The only thing I would change for this lineup would be the Anti-Luminescent Knight and the Giant Hand into Utopia and Utopia Lightning, but these definitely still have their control plays to them as well, so at that point I would leave it up to players' preference to what you'd want run more in your style of play. And with that, that is my Red-Eyes deck profile. Hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, comment, rate, and subscribe. Until next time.